The author says, may Allah have mercy upon her. If the woman is not a discerning woman, if she's not a woman who can tell the difference between menstrual blood and sickness blood, and furthermore, she forgot either the time or the duration of her habit, she would be called confused. And she is of different cases. The confused woman has a number of cases. But I have a quick question for you. If the woman is not a discerning woman, same exact question from last week. So I hope you'll give me the answer. What makes a woman not a discerning woman? What makes a woman not a discerning woman? There are two things that I'm looking for. That the blood she sees is of one type. That's a correct answer. All the blood comes out the same way. Yani, for sure she went past 15 days. She got into 16 days. Yani, or we could say in another way. For sure, this blood, she's seeing blood in days that can't be days of menses. And all of it came out the same way. So she can't tell the difference. Okay, there's another reason. Why else would she be not discerning, not telling the difference between menstrual blood and sickness blood? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The strong blood does not come out for 24 hours. That's not exactly what I'm looking for. So the answer I'm looking for is that she does see the blood as more than one type in more than one way. She can see strong blood and weak blood, but there, I helped you out. Who can finish the answer? She can see strong blood and weak blood, but what? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But it doesn't line up with the days properly. It doesn't line up with the days properly. So if she has continual blood, then to be a distinguishing woman, the strong blood has to fall in the days of menses, and the weak blood has to fall in the days of purity. So if the strong blood falls in the days of menses, like it's at least 24 hours and it's not more than 15 days, and the weak blood falls in the days of purity, like it's not less than 15 days, and again, the bleeding won't stop in the scenario I'm giving you. Or it does stop as long as though the strong blood falls in the days of menses and the weak blood falls in the days of purity, then she would be a distinguishing woman. So if she does see strong blood and weak blood, but they don't line up with the days properly, then she's still not a discerning woman. Is that clear? Anyone have a question there? Now that's the exact question that you call copy paste from last week. So it should be that the answer was ready. So make sure you're studying, brothers and sisters. Okay, so let's continue. If the woman is not a discerning woman, Why? Because all the blood comes out the same way. Or it doesn't all come out the same way, but it doesn't coincide with the days so that she could be a discerning woman. And furthermore, on top of that, she forgot either the time or the duration of her habit. She would then be called mutahayyira, a confused woman. And she is of different cases. So we have details here. Either she forgets her habit by both duration and time, such as forgetting if the menses used to come at the beginning of the month, and forgetting how long it lasted, such as 5 or 6 days. Or she forgets its duration and not its time by her remembering when the menses used to come, but forgetting how many days it used to last. Or she forgets its time, but remembers its duration, such as remembering that her menses was 5 days, for example. However, she forgot when it used to come. I want to read all that again. For my own sake, because I'm reviewing with you this study for me. So if you want to study, if you do have someone you can read on, or Yani, in other words, if you have access to an audience, one person even, then study your notes with a person. So let me read my notes on you, and then you'll teach them what you took, and that's going to really benefit you. All right. So the confused woman, she's not discerning. We saw why she would not be a discerning woman. And she's forgetful of either the time or the duration of her habit. First case here is that she forgot both of them. Either she forgets her habit by both duration and time. She doesn't remember if the menses used to come at the beginning of the month or the middle or the end of the month, so she doesn't remember when, nor does she remember how long it lasted, such as 5 or 6 days. That's one case. Or she forgets its duration, how long it would last, but not its time. She remembers when it would come. So she remembers when the menses used to come, like at the beginning of the month, for example, but she forgot how many days it would last. And the other and last case is that she forgot its time, but she remembers its duration, such as remembering that her menses was 5 days. So that's how long it would be. But she forgot when it used to come, at the beginning of the month or what. So those are the cases of the confused woman. So a confused woman then basically is what? She's a woman who cannot discern and she's forgetful of something, both of those together. She can't discern and she's forgetful about something. There's 3 cases of forgetfulness. Yani, there's 2 issues she could forget, which breaks into 3 cases. 2 issues that she could forget, so that breaks into 3 cases. What are the 2 issues? When the menses would come and how long the menses would last. So this makes way for 3 possibilities. Either she forgot both of them, or she forgot one of them, or she forgot the other one. So that's 3. I think that's clear. Let me know if you have a question, please. The confused woman who is forgetful of both the duration and time of her habits. If the woman forgot the duration and time of her habit, and she is not a discerning woman, she takes precautionary measures for her case. These precautionary measures that we talked about previously, now it's coming back. Because of the possibility of every moment that passes being menstruation, she could be presently in menses. And she could be not in menses. So she has to take precautionary measures. When you're taking precaution here, it means if you're going to take the side of precaution, that means you're going to take, yani, you're going to consider, you're going to act as if the issue is what's most delicate. What's the most delicate issue? Very good example, inshallah. The hermaphrodites. Hermaphrodites. The one that we can't tell the gender of this one. This one doesn't even know his own gender. Khunfa mushkil, problematic hermaphrodite. We don't know, is it a man or is it a woman? So what do we have to do? Take what? Precaution. Also, like, for example, can this one go outside with head uncovered since could be a man? No. Has to cover the head because he could be a woman. Can this one then wear golden jewelry? No. Like a woman? No. Because he might be a man. Can this one even get married to anyone, a man or a woman? No. Because if he marries a man, maybe he's a man. And if he marries a woman, maybe he's a woman. So we have to take by precaution. So now, what does it mean to take by precaution? It means to assume she's menstruating. That's the taking by precaution. So she takes precautionary measures for her case because of the possibility of every moment that passes being menstruation. Is she in menses or she's not in menses? We're going to go by precaution. Just like that hermaphrodite, male or female, we're going to go by precaution. Hence, she would be like a menstruating woman in the matters of sexual enjoyment, touching the book of Quran, reciting the Quran outside the prayer, and reciting the Quran outside of prayer. Period. She would not be like a menstruating woman in divorce and acts of worship that require an intention, such as prayer, circling the Kaaba, and fasting, whether obligatory or optional. Let me repeat. If the woman forgot the duration and time, she takes precautionary measures. Of course, she's not discerning. We're under that chapter. So she would be like a menstruating woman when, so you're going to memorize these lines right here so you can say it just like this. Me too. She would be like a menstruating woman when, in the matters of sexual enjoyment, one, touching the Quran book, two, and reciting Quran outside of prayer, three. She would not be like a menstruating woman in divorce, one, and acts of worship that require an intention, two, such as prayer, circling the Kaaba, and fasting, whether obligatory or optional. So, one more time here. She would be like a menstruating woman in three cases. What are those? Like a menstruating woman. We're talking about taking precaution here. So, she'll be like a menstruating woman in three cases. Sexual intercourse. Sexual enjoyment, sexual intercourse. Touching the Quran and reciting Quran out of prayer. So two of those relate to the Quran. So sexual enjoyment and touching the Quran and reciting it out of the prayer. And she would not be like a menstruating woman in divorce and acts of worship that require an intention. So that would mean then She cannot have sexual intercourse because she's like a menstruating woman. And she cannot touch the Quran book, and she cannot recite the Quran outside of prayer. She's acting as a menstruating woman. And she could be divorced as if she's not menstruating. And she does have to, she can do worship that requires an intention, such as prayer and circling the Kaaba and fasting. Obligatory or optional. Hence, divorcing her would not be prohibited, like we said, and in such an event, her postmarital waiting period would be 3 months. Means as if she's not menstruating. And she prays. She has to do her obligatory prayers like she's not menstruating. And she circles the Kaaba and she fasts, whether obligatory or optional. She is also entitled to stay in the mosque if it is a requirement for the validity of the worship, such as circling the Kaaba, because the Kaaba is inside the masjid, al-Masjid al-Haram, and i'tikaf, dwelling in the masjid with an intention. She's allowed to do that, or else she is not entitled. The confused woman performs a ghusl for every obligation at its due time. Every obligation that requires a ghusl, of course. Fasting doesn't require a ghusl. The confused woman performs a ghusl for every obligation at its due time. If she did not know the time of the cessation of blood, if she did not know when the bleeding stopped. However, if she knows the time of the cessation of blood, if she knows when the blood would stop, let me read that again from the top here. The confused woman performs a ghusl for every obligation at its due time if she did not know the time the bleeding would stop. However, if she knows when it would stop, like if she remembers that her blood used to stop at sunset, she would not be obligated to perform a ghusl every day and night, except at sunset. And she would have a common intention for wudu and ghusl, such as rendering prayer permissible, because she has, she makes that intention because of sickness bleeding. So, the confused woman performs a ghusl for every obligation at its due time. So that means she's going to take a ghusl for Fajr, and then again for Dhuhr, and again for Asr, and again for Maghrib, and again for Isha. Because she doesn't also know when the bleeding would stop. She doesn't remember when her bleeding would stop. Did it used to stop at dawn? Did it used to stop at sunset? She doesn't know. However, if she knows when it would stop, she remembers. Like, if she remembers that her blood used to stop at sunset, then she would not be obligated to perform a ghusl every day and night, for every prayer. She would only have to do so at sunset because she remembers that that's when her bleeding would stop. So every sunset, she would say, perhaps this is the day when my bleeding stopped. Her bleeding's not stopping, of course, that's obvious. But she does remember that when it would stop at sunset. So she'd take a ghusl every sunset, every day. And she would have a common intention for wudu and ghusl. The same intention, which is rendering prayer permissible, not becoming pure. When it was mentioned that the woman takes precautionary measures, what is meant is what was clarified here. Footnote: in other words, such a woman is always treated like a menstruating woman, except in 2 matters: divorce and the worship that needs an intention, like prayer and fasting. Therefore, in matters like entering the mosque, reciting the Quran, and enabling her husband to have intercourse with her, she is treated like a menstruating woman. Concerning fasting, the confused woman fasts the entire month of Ramadan, followed by a full month after Ramadan, 30 consecutive days. So, this confused woman here, she's going to fast for an entire month. This diagram here, this is the entire month that she has to fast. She's bleeding every day. Why are the first 15 days here red? Because we know that all of it can't be menses. Some of it is menses and some of it is not. And she forgot. She's confused. So she's bleeding the whole month and she has to now fast the entire month. It's obvious here that she can't count more than half of the month as valid. She cannot count more than half of the month as valid, although she has to fast every single day. Because every day it's possible that she's not menstruating, so she has to fast. And every day it's possible that she is menstruating, so then it would be an invalid fast. Then she's not able to count more than half of the month as valid. So there's this diagram here. If you have any question there, go ahead and ask. So then what she's going to have to do, fast a whole nother month again, another 30 days. So then what happened? Then the same thing. She's not going to be able to count more than half of the month is valid, but now she has two halves that are valid. And two halves equal one whole. So that's how she's going to complete her whole month of Ramadan. If it were not her habit for her blood to stop at night, or if she were doubtful about the time it stops, then 2 days would remain obligatory on her. After she fasts those 2 whole months, and it wasn't her habit for her blood to stop at night, or she's doubtful about the time it stops, she would fast those 2 whole months we already said, and still 2 more days would remain obligatory on her. Because of the possibility that she menstruates the maximum of menstruation, and that the blood started during the daytime of one day and stopped during the daytime of another day, which invalidates 16 days of each of the 2 months. Meaning here, check out this diagram. So if it was her case that her menses would stop at night, then this, what we're saying now, would not be an issue. But if it didn't used to stop at night, that means it would stop in the daytime. Or if she's doubtful, so that means it might stop in the daytime. Then that means what? That means that here, day 1 is not going to be really valid. And day 16 here is not going to be valid. So that means she would fast this entire month of 30 days and still have 2 days invalid because of the blood being in the middle of the day. If it were her habit that the menstruation stops during the night, then she does not have to make up anything. If her habit stops at night, if she knows that much, in other words, she knows that much, that it would stop at night, then this scenario here does not apply to her. And if 2 days did remain upon her, obligatory on her, then how does she make up those 2 days? To make them up, she chooses 18 days. Not fast 18 days. She chooses 18 days. When she's ready to make up those 2, she says, okay, let me pull out my calendar and let me count 18 days She chooses 18 days, and then what does she do? She fasts 3 at the beginning of those and 3 at the end of those. Not all 18. This will satisfy making up the 2 days, because whenever the menstruation appears, and no matter how long it lasts, certainly she will be clear for at least 2 days. Observe the diagram. She chooses 18 days. She fasts 3 from the beginning, 1, 2, 3, and 3 at the end, 1, 2, 3. So then no matter what, she will always get 2 days valid. Because out of these 18 days, when she fasts 3 in the beginning and 3 at the end, her 15 days, assuming she had 15 full days of menses, won't cover all those 18 days. 2 of them will be clear. So in the first diagram, the last 2 are clear. In the second diagram, the first is clear and the last is clear. And in the third diagram, the first 2 are clear. And for fasting 1 day or 2 days or more than that, there are other ways stated by the scholars. For fasting 1 day or 2 days or more than that, there are other ways stated by the scholars. We'll leave that there. Yeah, let's stop here for today.